Hey, conquerors of curiosity! We are chasing Alexander the Great, the original influencer who smashed empires before he could legally drink. Forget sanitized statues. This is a dopamine-fueled rampage across 11,000 miles. We're exposing how a bipolar, alcoholic teen rewrote the world and imploded at 32. Does daddy issues make you a dictator? Can 200,000 elite troops get outplayed by 47,000? And what does it mean to be immortal when your empire falls apart the second you die? Coming up! This is Alexander the Great in 10 minutes. Part 1. Daddy issues. A warrior prodigy. So daddy issues. Check. Philip II of Macedon. Greece! In the 4th century BC. His empire was unstable, and all he wanted was to be remembered as the man who united Greece. He had a lot of kids, but his favorite was Alexander, born in 356 BC. Why? Because he rode a horse named Bucephalus. Nah, because his mom, Olympia, made sure he got all the love. She was a black sheep in the Macedonian royal flock. She seduced Philip while dressed as a woman, then later stabbed him in the face. As a woman, when Philip was assassinated 5 years before Alexander was 20, everyone suspected Olympias' dirty work. But she swore her doves were always pure. That means it was probably her. Meanwhile, young Alexander was learning life lessons from the best. At age 8, he saw his father's assassins gutted alive. At 12, he tamed the wild horse Bucephalus by turning it from the sun. Sun glistened. First PR stunt. At 16, he drank Philip's war counsels, dry with wine, like father, like son. Now, was Alexander the Great an only child? Nope! He had a younger brother named Ptolemy, but let's keep it short. Brotherly love was never in their vocabulary. So when Philip died, guess who inherited the bankrupt kingdom? The rebellious Greek states and one hell of a chip on his shoulder. You guessed right, Alexander. Now, Alexander, aka the Conqueror or the Great, depending on his mood, looked out over his fractured domain and declared, I'd rather live short and glorious than long and quiet. That pretty much sums up Alexander. Part 2. The Blitzkrieg Blueprint. When news reached Persia that Alexander had taken the throne, Emperor Darius III laughed. He thought it was hilarious. What did he know? This kid would go down in history for destroying 3 empires, conquering Earth except for India, and starting the Hellenistic era. Oh yeah! He also had some pretty good ideas. These 18-foot spear formations shredded enemy ranks like kebab meat. Second, he had the cavalry crush foes against the infantry walls. The hammer and anvil style kept enemies trapped. Now, speed became his logistics. The result, in 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor and charged through the Granicus River to slaughter 2,000 Persians! 3 years later, he defeated Darius again at the Battle of Issos, captured his family and used them as propaganda pawns. Finally, in 331 BC, he played a trick on the 200,000 Persian troops and he pretended to retreat, and they fell for it. He won with just 47,000 men. Darius fled, and Alexander took the Persian throne and married his daughter. Because, why not? Part 3! The Dark Turn. Alexander went down in history for his military brilliance. He was like Hannibal Lecter with an army. Smarter, more ruthless, and way crazier. Sure, he beat mighty Persia. But what else did he do? He pillaged the Indus Valley. He also had visions of being a god. That's right. He believed he descended from Zeus. And where did he get that idea? Maybe from his mother Olympias, who called herself a descendant of the gods. Or maybe from that time he stood in front of the altar at the temple of Zeus and said, "Here's my prayer. Make me as dear to men as Zeus and make me as powerful." Well, Zeus must have been busy. He didn't answer. So Alexander decided to help himself. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River in 326 BC, he led the Macedonians to victory against King Porus of Pundra. But his soilders refused to march any further east. They wanted to go home. After all, Who could blame them? They had already marched for 2 years straight and covered more than 11,000 miles. Plus, they weren't even paid. Remember, Alexander was broke when he took the throne. Even worse, he chopped down Bucephalus, the greatest treasure house of the ancient world. He went insane and spent huge amounts of money, like on a navy, which cost half his kingdom. But that didn't stop him from invading India in 326 BC. The god complex struck again. He ordered the execution of his childhood friend, Cletus, after he mocked Alexander's divinity during a drunken rage. Then he burned Persepolis as revenge for Athens, but he regretted it instantly. He cut his own empire's lifeline to riches. And you gotta ask yourself, if Alexander could destroy that, what chance did he have against the forces of nature? And those forces hit back hard. He developed malaria, or maybe it was poison. Either way, he was in bad shape. His solution: epic benders! In Babylon, he hosted parties with 8 female companions, drinking until dawn. Historian Cutius wrote, "He wept at having no worlds left to conquer, then drank until dawn." Part 4, the multicultural endgame. After his failed campaign in India, Alexander turned around and headed west. On the way, he stopped in Persia and tried to fix his mistakes. Did it work? Depends on your definition of fix. He forced 10,000 of his soldiers to marry Persian women. He worshipped Egyptian gods and declared pharaoh at the Siwa Oasis. He founded 20+ Alexandrias from Egypt to Afghanistan, each with its own library and museum. They became famous trade hubs. Still standing, still thriving. But he also had darker ways of trying to fix things. Remember his sister, Cleopatra? Yeah, she got in his way. So he took away her power and locked her up. Oh, and his close friend, Ptolemy. He made him governor of Egypt, then betrayed him and seized his army. Alexander was unstoppable. He spread disease wherever he went. Literally. One theory says he brought malaria to India. Another claims he gave typhoid fever to China. But none of it stopped him from trying to fix his image. How? By going global. He was the OG influencer. He was the OG influencer. Yup, you heard me. As he conquered new lands, he cultivated a godlike image. He paraded chained prisoners before cheering crowds. He held grand feasts with endless food and drink. And he founded cities with libraries, museums, and schools. In Egypt, he declared himself pharaoh and built a giant temple complex. He even adopted Persian dress and demanded prostration rituals from his subjects. Now, the Macedonians loved that one. But the paradox is, he was misunderstood. His biggest idea, his multicultural fusion empire, was doomed from the start. His soldiers couldn't deal with it. And neither could he. He died suddenly at 32 in Babylon. Possibly from malaria or typhoid, maybe from alcohol. No one knows. All we know is that his empire shattered instantly. Historian Plutarch said it was like a Ferrari with no driver. Guess who took advantage of that? His own brother, Ptolemy. He snatched the throne of Egypt and dipped Alexander's corpse in honey to keep it fresh. Then they fought over his body for decades. Outro! The echoes of madness. You've seen his cradle of modern civilization. Next time you sip your Starbucks coffee, thank Alexander the Great. He kickstarted globalization. You'll scroll through TikTok drama, remember his shadow play as the first influencer. He projected an image of perfection while hiding his demons. Vladimir Putin is taking notes. He dreams of empire. Alexander showed it's possible. He created the blueprint for empire nostalgia. Putin used it to build his power base. Alexander was obsessed with legacy. He wanted to be remembered forever. Well, mission accomplished. But here's the secret truth. His ghost is everywhere. From the uniform system to postal systems, from the spread of Greek culture to the fusion of languages and religions, he started it all. Now that's thinking outside the box. Now it's time to step out of the shadows and into the light. Thanks for riding shotgun with history's most chaotic conqueror. If this gave you the I can take over the world vibes or terrified you, smash like algorithms are today's Sarissa. Stay curious. Question glory.